Hello, everybody. This is audition and voice coach Jessica Neighbor. I wanted to share with you guys some recent kernels, some great takeaways from some of my really competitive performers who went out on high stake auditions. They came back, and I always love having a follow up with my performers to hear how the audition went. Did our game plan work for them? And what was a surprise? And what went easy? And what, if anything, threw them a little. So one really great feedback response I got recently was from one of my dear performers, and she's so talented. She sings and acts, and so she was going out for a musical theater program in the Bay Area that's highly, highly competitive. And so she told me that she was ready for a lot of the things from our coaching together. I always take all of my performers through mock auditions, and I try to give them as many curveballs as I can. So one thing that's really important is after you perform your song to be ready for them to give you a direction. They might say, oh, that song was great, but could you sing it, fuller on the chorus? Could you sing it faster? If you're doing a monologue, they might give you an emotional direction that's different than the choice you made. That doesn't mean that the choice you made is wrong. It just means that they want to see how flexible you are, if you can adjust, and how well you take direction. Now, one thing, though, that did surprise her was the judges themselves and how they were responding to her. She had three judges. She had one who was very friendly. She had one who was neutral poker face. And she had one who she thought, frankly, was kind of frowning and giving her a little bit of the stink eye. That is probably one of the hardest things to handle. Here you are opening up and auditioning for people, and you're getting all of these different responses and picking up on their body language and their energy, and you don't know what to do with it. So I have an answer for you, and she and I talked this one through, which is that you absolutely want to try not to respond to whatever it is that they are giving off. What I mean by that is that this is not a mirror exercise. I think when we're performers, we're very intuitive and we're very empathetic. So we're picking up on all of these social cues. But when it comes to audition, you actually, once you go into character and you're doing your performance for them, need to create a healthy fourth wall for yourself so you don't get thrown off by their expressions. Another simple tip is just to not look at their faces at all. A lot of my performers will look at their foreheads for the judges or a little bit above them, some focal points around the room that aren't exactly the judges, just because they might be giving you this strange feedback with their face that we don't know how to interpret. Do they like me? Do they hate me? I'll tell you a funny story of my own. When I was a singer in a band, I was doing our first set, and I was singing, and I was getting this weird vibe, this weird feedback from the audience, and it felt kind of negative, and it felt a little like cold. And I remember at break time going backstage and talking with some of my band members and saying, man, this audience is lame tonight. What's their problem? Why are they so negative? And I remember it was one of the members of my band who turned to me and said, Jessica, I was watching you up there. You actually seemed a little negative. And I was totally taken aback, because what that friend communicated to me was I was putting out that energy and I was getting it back. And when it comes to performers and audiences, what we put out is very often what we're going to receive back. So when you're on stage, it's key to remember that even if you're nervous or if you've had a bad day, because it turned out I had a really stressful day before that show, and I didn't think that that was coming through and coming across my performance when it really was. The thing that's a little different when we're in an audition setting is that they are not our audience, they are our judges, and they are actually supposed to remain neutral because they don't want to give you false hope. They don't want to mislead you. And frankly, they don't want to get involved in your process. If they're a good judge, they're trying to remain relatively neutral so that you can do your thing and they can take you in and assess you. to see if you are, in fact, the right person for them. So if you also put yourself in their shoes, you'll remember that, they're sitting in this room and they're judging many performers and they're having to keep themselves fresh and they have their own job that they're doing. It's your job to be charismatic. It's your job to have your light on. It's your job to really put all of your full energy out there, regardless of if they're sitting in the third row eating their sandwich or writing notes and not looking at you. That's something that's going on for them that does not concern us. So the big takeaway is to not get thrown by that poker face. Don't get thrown by that stink face. You have no idea what's really internally going on for them. And believe it or not, I've gotten parts where I was sure that they didn't like me in there just because of the way they were giving me looks. So you can't read a judge. You can read an audience, but you can't read a judge. So you may as well just focus on your own material, your own, amazing work and craft work that you have created and rehearsed and practiced and perfected. And that's what you're going to bring into that room. And don't get thrown off by any kind of look that they might give back to you. All right, you guys, I hope that helps you, and more takeaways to come. I'm hearing back from a lot of people who've been having some pretty fun auditions lately, so I'll keep these coming for all of us to benefit from. Take care, guys.